We are 3 minutes late.
The funny thing is we got here early, but then we started
talking.
Yeah, we're not good at this. We're good at marketing.
Yeah,
I'm not good at this.
That's right. Staying on time, that's not my thing. I'm not an integrator.
No, we're a doer.
Yeah. You're like, visionary cooking stuff up in the lab, and I'm doing my thing, whatever that is.
Walter White over here in my meth lab, my RV.
That's right.
Coming out my underwear going, I found something.
Oh my God, here it is.
Yep.
Which is pretty exciting because this is where it all comes out. So, if you're a new listener or watcher of this show, because I know some people just listen to it and they don't watch it. You should be watching it because we do a lot of screen shares here, but we are going to be renaming this.
Ooh.
Are you aware? I don't think we're allowed to say exactly what the name is, but it has something to do with the ads lab.
Yeah. I remember we were going back and forth from it. I didn't know if it was, I like the one that the most recent one that you sent me. I think that had a great ring to it. Which is why I'm more of the data guy.
Data guy.
I was like, ChatGPT was able to produce this for me. What do you think?
ChatGPT is good. That one actually, that was one that we had for a while. It was called, we used to call it the ads lab, but this is the ad lab. And then, cooking up stuff in the, what did you say? The experimentation kitchen. Is that what you said?
Yeah. That's what ChatGPT said. Yeah.
That's what ChatGPT said. It's good. It's good. John, coming out of there, coming out of the lab. But I always start to think you should have the Doc hair, from Back to the Future, but you have no hair. Maybe just put a wig on, something blows up and your hair coming on like this.
Put a DeLorean in the background.
Big Google sign on it.
Right.
So we're going to be renaming this thing. We were calling it Tier 11 Live, but it's not really that good of a name with John Moran. It doesn't have a really good ring to it. No. But what we're doing is we're bringing out new things that you've probably never heard of, and you spend your own money in a lot of cases, millions of dollars, for one of the more recent breakthroughs that you've had inside John's lab.
Yep.
And then we present it here. So this is the cutting edge of the cutting edge. I don't think anybody else is really doing any of this stuff. So now it's we talk about feeder strategy and Dogpile's strategy, this thing that we did so long ago. But in fact, still that's cutting edge too. So, so for those of you who are new to the show, that is the name of the show. It's going to be coming out. We're going to change all our branding and everything probably next week. And this week though, you've got a couple of things that you've cooked up. One of which I'm sort of kind of familiar with. Some offline things happening.
Yep.
And then maybe some meta trickery that we might want to talk about a little bit.
Kind of what Meta said should happen. I have some data on kind of proving the model out about the deduping by ad set and the omnichannel traffic flows, and how Meta is now kind of consolidated what they call opportunities to specific campaigns. So we'll go through the proof that we can see inside a data suite, which is where it's our diagnostics tool in the lab. Essentially, this is the Tier 11 data suite. And that is what we're going to be showing some examples as how Meta is now utilizing their campaign targeting and creative targeting, and how you now have to think about your new structure and setup inside of Meta.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you're going to define deduping for those of us. No, not me specifically, but for those who are listening or watching and don't know what that is, because that's a techie term that we bandy about here, but we also want to make sure that you understand exactly what we're talking about. So anyway, excited to get into that. So where do you want to start? Screen share or just sort of explanation? All right. Screen sharing is the way we roll here.
I love it. Let's pierce the veil. Let's see what's going on here. All right. So I can't show the name of this company. It is a fairly large company. And so what we want to do is simply show the results. This is yesterday's performance. They did spend $50,000 yesterday. So it's about a campaign that spends about $50K a day, and having trouble with growing their new customers. Pretty much every customer or every company that's kind of running digital marketing, there's scale. That's it. That's all you want. Scale, 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 scale. So when that is always the primary target, there's always obviously something that is limitations, and those limitations are now being overcome and identified by the kind of Tier 11 data suite CAPI import feature, both for Meta and for Google. And what we noticed is that as an example of yesterday being actually the first day of imports. So day one, which is really nice because now we kind of get to see a snapshot as of why. For all transparency, and I can prove this, I just have to change the screen here and go off camera here for a moment. But they spend about $1.3 to $1.5 million per month. And
big spenders.
Exactly. Big spenders, but also very, very hard to grow new customers because they have a great brand recognition and they've been in the industry for 25 years. So we said we have to get a snapshot as to what's going on. And so we wanted to run our own imports through the API calls of Google Ads, and then get a feel from a diagnostic as to what is working and what is not. And on day one, what we can see so far is if we compare their previous primary conversion action showed 925 sales yesterday. However, after we import our new and returning customer, the $50,000 that was spent on about 600 returning customers and only 400 new customers.
Interesting.
So not only were they missing data, because anybody that's good at math should be able to see this pretty quickly, but 592 plus 692 is 984, and they were counting only 925. So not only were we missing, we were having more returning customers than new from basically a 60-40 split, 5-9 and 3-9. We'll just call it 600 and 400. It's 60-40 returning customers. Now, spending millions of dollars a month on 60% of your own returning customers is what is going to be the death of any company. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense, especially when you peer over to the other side and find out that the cost per conversion is $104 and the value per conversion is $104. So when you're basically spending the same CPA to get the same AOV, you are now gross break even, but you are net negative. You're losing money faster than you're making money, and you're spending millions of dollars per month on it.
Yeah.
That is detrimental. Now, this company is in
Doesn't make sense.
Exactly. And this company is in the healthcare space. This company cannot use audiences, not for targeting, not for exclusion. Google has stopped that. They essentially said, we're sorry, you violate HIPAA by using any one of your audiences ever. So it's a company that we previously worked with for a little while, and knowing that, targeting exclusions are fairly, kind of gone. This is actually also crazy enough running only standard shopping. There is no performance max.
Okay.
So we're seeing that our standard shopping is bringing in still 60-40, 60% existing customers because they have thousands of SKUs. And when people want to buy something yet again, they're not brand loyal to that company. They're simply product and solution aware and are looking for the solution regardless of who has the solution, because they are reselling products. They are a distributor of products, right? Or sorry, a retailer of products. So
does that speak to the fact that they're not creating brand loyalty on the first sale? So that, like, I know, take away all the stuff that you're doing, but like that I see as a fundamental issue, because they're in a highly competitive space. People are just like, I don't care where I get this thing. And it doesn't matter if it's from them or not from them. I think that's a business problem, but that's still like you're diagnosing that problem through paid media to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
And, they're either, well, this is Meta, so I was thinking more like on the Google side. They're either brand naming your brand, or they're probably just looking for the thing that they want, the particular medicine that their dog, like in their pet in this particular case needs. Yeah. And
that's the reason why Amazon exists. Like, no one goes to Amazon and be like, wow, I heard about this great thing on TikTok from Amazon. No, it's they're going there to buy the product. And when you don't necessarily have the brand loyalty, you become a hopeful retention play. Yeah. We know that 6 out of 10 people are going to buy something again in the industry, but it could be from Amazon. It could be one of their competitors. It could be from them. So now it's just a pure pricing play. So that pricing play now is essentially try to not lose as many new customers as you did last week. Like, that's the goal, which is a really shitty goal.
And this is super price sensitive market. Right?
Absolutely.
Because they're competing, as I recall, having been a customer for years and years, like their biggest competitors outspending them, but also is on the same products a little bit less expensive in most cases, as I remember.
Sometimes, yeah. It's almost like
okay.
the reason why we have so many new and returning customers that actually just kind of revolving door is like that company has better price, I'll buy from them. Well, that company's got better price, then I'll buy from them. Oh, now they have a better price. And so they basically just bounce off of peer pricing. So that's what's interesting is there's no retention play. There's nothing there to keep the user, to keep the customer. And that is just becoming like, you know, I'll spend $1 million and I'll make $1 million and then I'll lose $1 million and we'll do that every day. It's basically like that kind of model. So yeah, and this also even shows that just because you're running standard shopping does not mean it's new customers at all. Actually, standard shopping has been moving more into returning customers because the ROAS targets can be more easily met.
Everybody thinks like that's. I mean, Google Shopping is used so much for like reordering stuff that you've already bought. People don't really think about it that way. Like, of course, everybody's gonna brand name or Google brand name my name. Doesn't necessarily happen that way. And you've seen that plenty of times, especially now using this. It's like you can push it right back to the actual, either keyword or ad campaign specifically, and it proves itself out.
Yeah, and optimize towards that. And that's what we're kind of be working on now is we needed to get a little bit of a sense as to what's going on. And we found out, like you're losing thousands of dollars a day in net profitability. So yeah, like that's just one example of being able to just simply, we're not even optimizing towards it really yet. Like this is just day one of visuals. So just being able to use, the tier 11 data suite to understand what your campaigns are even delivering to you, much less optimized towards it later on. But this is a really good understanding of saying like, that's what's actually true. Not CPA, not ROAS. Because they actually have a great ROAS. I've got 3 and 4x ROAS. It shows they're making $4 and $5 million per month. But if 60% of those are people that are coming back because by chance, this is in dire straits. So yeah, it's very interesting.
And they're not on Data Suite, I have to assume. So the new and returning that you're only using Meta right now as your proxy to say, hey, here's, not only are you missing a fair amount of purchases over here, like you're just using the standardized purchase event. However, if we are separating this out, now we're actually seeing at a more granular level. That's not being backed up by Data Suite at this point. Maybe that will change at some point.
Not yet. Exactly. Yeah. But we need to get into this is more of a, like, can we work together diagnostic kind of thing.
That's great.
Because what they measure by and what we measure by are like two ships passing in the night. So for us to be able to have control over their metric, which is more like kind of ROAS, that part is like, now we can see that 60% of what happens in that campaign has nothing to do with that ad spend.
Yeah,
really. So that's what's interesting. So now we know why some things are like pushing rope. There's the people that are returning because these people particularly have a prescription. They're not going to buy anything else. They can't. It's illegal. So really cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that just goes back to the idea of like, before you had this, and we could, I wouldn't even say we could do this inside Data Suite because the purchases, it was like new or returning customer on like all your products. And you've used examples where there's like thousands of SKUs or maybe like 6 different SKUs, like in the pet space as well. That's actually in the pet space also, not that we do just exclusively pet, examples here, but they just so happen to be that way.
Yeah, just for inbound and people just find it for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of pet crazy people out there. I find, it's like unbelievable how much stuff people will buy for their dogs and everything.
John Moran's dog, please close yours.
That's right. We just give him free content. That's what we get for John Moran's dog. But anyway, this really does speak to that point. We talked about this yesterday in a call, an internal call. It's like every one of your products doesn't necessarily have the same NCAC.
Right.
Some have better, some have worse. We have had customers where like their gross profitability is 90% on one of their products, but on their other product, it's 40%. Yeah. Because their cost is just higher for whatever it is. But if you have a global NCAC, you just sort of have to take the average, but you don't really know, are you getting the 90 gross or are you getting the 40 gross? Yeah. Like nobody really knows. So this is really cool at being able to laser focus in on new customers for a specific product and knowing exactly what that NCAC is so that your metrics make sense and it's metrics that matter and growth that scales.
Yeah, that's right. It's almost like we've entered the next phase of digital marketing.
It's something like that. Yes. Some exciting shit.
So kind of moving on to my second test for the week that we wanted to kind of share. So I've been making some claims that Meta has told me specifically, and I won't say us because this is something that I had a personal conversation with Meta when I was in Iceland. And what was interesting
in this mysterious conversation, can you just explain that again? Like people are like, oh, what is John done? Like
right?
he said, this mystery person.
They flew me to Iceland to
They
speak.
flew me to Iceland. Yes,
I was attending a speaking engagement, and it happened to be in Iceland. It was actually put on by Amazon and a gentleman named Kevin King. So they were trying to get Amazon companies that don't really have a website. They're just pure sellers on Amazon. They were trying to bring in like kind of industry experts to teach other platform techniques. So I was brought in for the Google and someone else was actually brought in from Meta, a creative agency actually out of UK. And we had a opportunity to speak with Meta and Google, who were also attending the event because it was part of what they call like the Billionaires Club, which is people who have made more than $1 billion on Amazon. So you kind of have like the one person that spoke before me on YouTube is Mr. Beast's producer.
so
yeah, so it was really cool. So in with people that are way more successful than I am, but I'm just happy to be there. I started to ask a whole bunch of questions to some people that were on the Meta team.
Love to get a video of your talk, by the way.
What's that?
Love to get a video of your talk.
I will have that soon. Actually, just talked to Kevin this morning. It'll be live, and I'll have that. I'll have that. It's actually how to drive Google Ads traffic to Amazon and make the ad look like Amazon. It's actually what we covered here.
Awesome. Did you have to wear your oversized suit?
No, I got a new suit.
Your talking head suit. Remember, like,
I know. Otherwise, I'm just floating in there with like 65 pounds lighter. Just I turn and it's just my head. My body stays there.
It's the last time I saw John speak on stage. The oversized suit is all I remember. Anyway, keep going. The zoot suit.
So so one thing that they mentioned and one thing that I've been talking about is what they call the deduping of opportunities. What that means to define deduping of opportunities. If you have built your meta campaigns so that they are segmented out by level of awareness, so top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of the funnel, or you've segmented them out where it's saying, okay, if they do this, then this moves over to this campaign, but if they do that, it moves over to this ad set or this targeting. Right. That essentially was shattered by Meta. Meta wants one campaign, one ad set, all creative.
Right. It's exactly what we used to do. Like page view event, view content, add to cart, initiate checkout. We would target each one of those with different ads. Now all that's out the window.
Pretty much. Exactly. And so it's all kind of gone. So what we are assuming is, okay, let's say that's true. Let's say that as soon as a click happens inside of an ad set, that ad set is the only ad set that can show to that user when they're either clicked or when they're impressed, and it will not be able to jump to another ad set or campaign unless that ad or ad set is turned off. So we started to
wild.
I know
that just unto itself, like that little. You were explaining this to our internal team yesterday. Like, really? Like, how do we know that's true? Like, you've seen it, you've proved it out, but when you heard that, weren't you kind of like, oh my god?
Well,
this is insane.
It actually is, and I'll share some data that is back end data from another agency that I'm a part of. Very, very, very tiny agency. It's a VC group. We're not even. I mean, we have like 15 accounts total in the world, kind of thing. Like it's not a big company, but we buy companies and make them bigger. Well, what ended up happening was we had a campaign that basically just exploded in a bad way, and like it fell off the face of the earth. And this is the internal conversation that actually happened on April 18th, where, long story short, last week, January 25th, confirmed by Angelo, our contacts and Meta, major update to ASC campaigns. This is what we obviously saw happen. Our account went from in-platform ROAS of 3.5 to 0.4 on average. No matter what we tried, no recovery in this campaign. So what we saw, because we do a lot of extremely technical media buying, like you fart on Tuesday, you see that ad on Thursday. Like it was insane with the amount of technical structure that we had broken out in all these campaigns. And overnight, 3.5 ROAS in platform to a 0.5, like flip a switch, just like thought it was a tracking issue, thought the pixel was gone. Nope. Everything was working perfectly fine. But what we found out is that the way that we move traffic through our prospecting, remarketing, and acquisition funnels, which we actually label PRPT and like ACQ and everything, we have them all broken out by label. That thing just went and just blew up. So I already have, kind of a bunch of proof that, the technical media buying portions of our campaigns are just dying, and it's kind of crazy. So one of the things that I thought was, okay, if what Meta has said is true, I should be able to backtest that. I should be able to identify that. So hopping into our handy dandy, it's kind of a handy dandy notebook on Blue's Clues, the handy dandy tier 11 data suite, we're able to see the ad or the ad group and the campaign that users are being pushed through. And what was interesting is before we used to have like a, bunch of different campaigns that could get first click. And, then you have other campaigns that got second click, and then you go to remarketing clicks. Now it's you can see that it is locked in after an ad was paused. That first one was an old one from March. We paused it. And now every single click is coming in and are like completely what was essentially now top of funnel campaign. And it is an ad click on the Catherine cat ad. That's the name of the cat in the ad, because this is, again, a pet brand. Go figure. But that's Catherine the cat. So now I got to click on Catherine. And then even after they buy, it's a click on Catherine. Like they're not released from this ad set or ad.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, let's take a look at this one. It's
like their user ID is permanently attached to that ad set specifically. Okay. Makes sense.
Yep. And so we started to look at longer time periods, and we started to see when things started to bounce around. And we're noticing, okay, once we paused this on March 22nd, then the one that we launched on March 29th, the new one in creative testing, got a click, creative testing, got a click again. Then it jumped to this one, 322. Each time we date them and we move forward, we can see them jump to the new one, 427. Same ad set. 4 clicks in a row on 5.6, 5.7, 5.7, 5. It's literally the same ad set now locked in. And the only time I can get them out of this is if I pause that ad or that ad set.
Is that a different ad each time? Can you, or do you not know, or do you care?
Nope. This is the same ad. We labeled
same ad. Okay.
The same. Yep. So the ad name, we all like Heidi, Patricia. When these are paused, then this new one comes in, and then they are locked into here.
Got it. Okay.
So we started to kind of identify that we got, 427 immune. Now they're going through Heidi. We did have a direct visit in between there, but they're seeing this. They have 5 clicks on the same ad.
That's wild to think. Like people would actually do that.
Yep. And so I started to go through each one of these, and I was like 322. So same ad. And then that was paused. This is back in 322. The new one we launched at 413 is same here. Now we have this one that's taken this over, and I'm going to see, is this the same one that's also going to show up now the next 2, 3, 4, 5 times? So I keep looking into this thing. Catherine. It's the same thing. They are the same ad every single time. They used to bounce. Now they're locked in. Well, if they're locked into your top of funnel and it can never go to your middle or bottom, that's the reason why your funnel is shattered. It breaks. And that's the reason why Meta wants to have the campaign and the ad group to have all of the creative, because it can jump in between different ads. Like we've seen, sometimes it goes through different names, but the ad set is the same exact ad set every single time unless it's paused. It will only release the opportunity when it's paused. And I don't know anybody. This last one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 6 Catherine clicks on literally the same day, all 5.7. They kept seeing the same exact ad 7 times in one day.
User behavior is just so mind-boggling to me.
Right?
I think that's one of the reasons I should have been a psychiatry major. Well, psychology probably, because I wouldn't be a psychiatrist. But I should have been a psychology major. I did.
Whatever
take
one can
sociology.
write the drugs, I want that one.
Well, that's psychiatry. That would be better. They should have gone down that road. Anyway, but it's closely related to advertising and marketing in general. It's like, why would somebody click on the same ad? And I've seen those ads, and I know those ads, and they're not particularly interesting by any stretch, but it's like they're thinking about it. I remember I heard like one of the first digital products I ever bought was Jeff Walker's product launch formula 2.0. This is way back, like when I launched my first online business, and I watched his webinar, like the replay of it, I think 7 or 8 times. And then he said in one of his webinars, he's like, on average, people watch anywhere between 5 to 10 times before they decide to buy. Because it was like a $4,000 product. And back then, that was like all the money in the world I had.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, so I bought it, but I never will forget that, because he's like, people watch the same stuff over and over again. You wouldn't think that they would. They would watch it once and then maybe the replay and then that's it. But if you're really thinking about buying something, you click on the same stuff. You do your research, you Google the brand name like maybe 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
You know,
the touch points, and they're only growing as we start to throw more ads at everybody all the time. Like it makes sense. It's a reason why Friends is still on TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was stopped like 2004 or something.
It's crazy.
Now people are still watching. Exactly, I was watching reruns, but it makes a lot of sense and it makes no sense at all at the same time. Like right now we're in that transition period, which is hopefully Meta's AI targeting based on creative is just as good as what I was doing. You know, like that's a scary proposition. And so I think it's our job as good marketers and educators of the industry to explain what we're seeing so that people, you know, I've had a lot of times where I'm always a tinfoil hat guy. You know, I'm always like, soon Meta's going to just do this. And I was like, okay, John, like go back to your cave with your tinfoil hat. And all of a sudden, like things are starting to like kind of come true, which is cool. So it is moving that direction, but I think that's sometimes tinfoil hat theories, they become reality. It doesn't make sense why they would just stick a person in one ad set forever. And then they're like, well, there's different conversion events. So different conversion events are allowing now to jump. I'm like, oh, like now that's why CAPI imports make sense. It's like we can actually control the flow of the traffic, because if you don't, your tofu ad is stuck there forever. Good luck. I mean, that is horrible. They're just forcing you to relinquish all control and to put into one campaign with one ad set and, you know, let AI God figure it out.
So in that ad set, if they're clicking on the same ad multiple times, I mean, you're also mixing in, because we talked to our creative director, Lauren, yesterday about this, who, by the way, is going to be launching her own new series on YouTube on creative. So tease, hint, hint there. Anyway, so her question was, well, how do you actually test creative, or how do you know which creative to bring in? And I would always think, well, in each individual ad set, you're going to have, for one particular product, you're going to have 5 or 6 different creative types or maybe hooks and so forth. But your data shows they're clicking on the same damn ad. So it's like, I'm not thinking about like, oh, it lasts longer. Oh, it tastes great. You know, oh, it's less filling, you know, or whatever the benefit is for me, I would want to get, but I lock into one thing, and Meta almost knows that I'm locking into that one benefit. Like less filling is the thing that's going to get Ralph to convert.
Right.
Using a horrible analogy here, but basically that's like a hook. And it seems like the data shows that to be the case. How would you respond to that?
If you combine your horrible analogy with my horrible Microsoft Paint skills, you get sort of an explanation here.
Here we go. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
He's Michelangelo.
Oh yeah. Look at this. Look at that funnel, baby. Oh yeah. And so this is obviously everyone knows quality. The funnel. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. I'm pretty proud of myself.
That's pretty good. It's like it's all aligned and everything.
Yeah, look at that.
Van Gogh, you know what heart out.
I figured out if you hold down the shift button, it actually makes things straight.
That's good.
I'm a pro in paint.
That's
so
good.
What Meta wants is if they have these users who are in the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel, and you're producing all of your creative over here in these kind of bubbles, essentially, and this is all of your ads in one ad set, then what Meta's job and what they are saying they can do now is saying, well, this person needs to see that. This person needs to see that. This person needs to see that. Why? Well, this person is product and solution aware, but is not company aware. This person is dealing with a problem, but they have no idea that there's a solution about it. This person is actually just, you know, trying to price match, you know, your product and everyone else's product. So what Meta says is we understand where our users are in the buyer journey based on how much we can match their needs and activities to your creative, and then we will combine them. Now, what they were also mentioning though is that if I have a user in this, you know, a user over here that needs to see that ad, they are going to be seeing that ad multiple times. Now, Meta states that as they move down the funnel, they will then see the same ad that this person's seeing. And as they move down the funnel, they're then going to see the same ad that this person's seeing. So essentially what they are claiming is we will show the appropriate ad, which is why they lock in, which is why when you're looking at creative targeting, creative testing, if you have two ads that are exact same and the audiences are the exact same, Meta is going to, it can't target one person with two ads, so it chooses. And so everyone's like, no, I'm going to force it with ABO. I'm going to make Meta spend the money. And what you're doing is Meta said, hey, I have no one for this, and that's not how I work. And you went, yeah, but I'm ABO, so take my money anyway. It goes against the narrative now. So Meta's like, well, fine, I'll choose both and I'll split it. So it's going to be split down to different audiences. And so we thought, okay, well, that's how we do our creative testing. If it's going to be the same audience, why don't I spend 90% of my ad spend on the same audience I'd be spending 10% of the ad spend on, but with a different ad. So now I can test with my 10% and then push it to my audience with 90% and then retest the 10%. It's actually Perry Belcher's old email marketing strategy from 2016, where he had 100,000 users in a list. He took 5,000 users, tested one email headline or subject line, took the other 5,000, tested the other subject line, then blast out to the other 90,000. Same exact thing.
Yeah,
the audience is the same. They're locked in. It's like an email list. So that's how these things are kind of evolving. We just have to give it obviously more time because we're seeing them locked into that one ad. And then we got to see, are they going to jump down to the other one? I have sort of proven it with feeder strategy. So that'll be something next. We can see the view contents and then the purchases now. So we're starting to connect those dots. It's starting to jump between conversion events. So we're like, good.
That's really cool too.
Yeah,
like that's some next level stuff right there. That's actually combining two of the things that we've come out here in the ad lab. Not that I'm renaming it already because we don't have our, all our branding together. The point is like that's a combination of CAPI imports plus feeder strategy.
And soon it'll be CAPI imports with feeder strategy on top of Dogpile strategy. We're lumping them all in together.
Oh, baby.
Oh, yeah. It's good stuff.
Well, make sure that you stay tuned here every Friday, 2:30 p.m. And we're getting a lot of people watching this on the replay too. So it's insane. And we're actually somewhat on schedule here. As promised last week, we would get to questions in and around the 3:00 time frame, and we're right there. So
that's right. I'm getting better at this.
I know. Look at us getting organized and stuff.
Still late, but now we're on time.
Still waiting, but we're on time. Exactly. We're still
50%
late.
It's like my grade in high school, 50%. That's good.
Yeah, isn't that good enough? Well, it's technically pass fail. My son is graduating this year from MBA. His MBA. We were talking about this. He finished his baseball season yesterday. 21 years he's been playing baseball. Finally, like that was the last game he's ever gonna play. Now he's into like beer league softball. But anyway, so all of his classes are pass fail. I'm like, that's my kind of program. Anyway.
Yep.
Because 50s are good. Right. All right, let's get to some questions here. Hopefully we'll be batting better than his batting average this year, John. It was a little bit of a disappointing year. Malacomo has a question for you. Hi, John. I'm trying to generate distressed seller leads, and my campaigns are having a tough time. I'm assuming that. Serving no matter the bid. I've used max clicks, high budget 700, bid cap like 80, with no impressions clicks. Using manual CPC, raising exact and phrase match, keywords like $95 bids, no impressions. And one last thing, just additional context. I'm targeting a specific country inside of a state, not national. County inside of okay.
Got it. So a specific county, that's going to be very, 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 very difficult. When we were doing distressed seller leads, you can target like a region, then it can work well. My opinion, there's something else that seems to be going wrong here. I understand the CPC cap at 80 potentially could stop learning because it can't start high and it wasn't really finding much lower. Your bids might be $250. We've had $220, $240 CPCs. That's not uncommon. DUI Attorney Houston is $800. So, that's, and plastic surgeon in Orange County is like $2,000. So there is vastly wild ranges of CPCs. If you try max clicks with a bid cap, the only thing that I would say is set a CPC and daily budget that is fairly high. If you're using $700 high budget, set a $700 CPC. I know it sounds stupid, but what you're looking for is some sort of sign of life that tells you if this is actually even going to work at all. I do have a small half-second use case that I can share with you. It's on a client we're having the same sort of exact issue actually. And their issue is we cannot get enough traffic because this is a highly segmented and competitive industry. So if you look at the last 7 days as an example, I got a grand total of 3 clicks. Now they're coming in at $66 CPCs, but because we're only spending $400 a day, it will actually only give me 3 clicks, because if this actually starts to shoot up to $100, I can't earn one more. So it says, if I know the CPC is this much, and I know the daily ad spend is this much, it will purposely, sometimes I've seen it purposely not get enough clicks because that next click could put them over the budget because the CPCs are so high. So test with a really high CPC. And what I mean really high CPC, I'll actually start with like $80 CPCs. I'll work up to 90. I've actually gone up to $200 CPCs. What I did find is that, yes, I can actually start to get impressions for like X-ray repair and MRI preventative. These are hospitals searching for people to come out and fix a $500,000 piece of equipment. There's not a whole lot of traffic out there, and we're only going to one state. This is Texas. But the search terms are perfect. Like in the last 14 days, like I can see, my 3 clicks out of the 6 that I got, which really sucks. But the X-ray repair, who fixes MRI machines, MRI coil repair, scanner parts, X-ray repair technician near me. Sometimes these CPCs are crazy. I get very little clicks. So what I would say is set it to the ridiculous, and then look at your search impression share lost by budget. And that should, if you're actually capturing everybody, it should. And I'm so sorry, I'll actually just share this with you real quick. You can see that I'm trying to spend $400 a day, and I could only spend $90 every 14 days. But I'm fairly confident in this because my search lost impression share by budget is 0%. I'm not losing anything doing to not spending too much. This is actually, there is no one there.
It's just a limited supply.
Exactly. If you have anything over 0, you need to raise budgets and bids.
Right. So budgets and bids, and then accordingly, daily budget. So bids, right. So 700, like some ridiculous number.
Yeah. Like
start
everything you
there.
can afford to spend in a month, do that one day.
Got it. And then gather the data.
Exactly.
So
set it to the extreme and just find out, is it too cheap, or is your account set up too cheaply for the CPC, or is there really no one there?
Yeah. I think it's a frightening thing for a lot of people to do, is reverse psychology there a bit. But, if you're going to be making money on this, I assume that you're either reselling the leads there or you're using them yourself. I mean, if you're doing wholesaling or distressed buying, you're talking AOV in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. So, anyway, all right. William Forshaw has a question here. Hey, John, they're now 3 weeks into feeder. We are now 3 weeks into feeder strategy. Very cool. We realized that due to high price ticket item, we have better results with a balance of 50-50 between standard and PMAX. Thoughts?
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. The reason why is if you have a higher price ticket item, you're going to need a longer time and more remarketing. Yeah. So feeder strategy is combining the first click and then the remarketing efforts and then the return branded searches, and basically any way they can possibly get back to you, and you're trying to force them to come back to you. Now, that will probably take a few clicks and maybe a few days to a few weeks. Now, if you are doing half of the feeder strategy, which is just standard shopping, what you have to say is it's going to take a few days to a few weeks. And I'm betting all that on the first click, and only one click. So it makes sense that you have to push more additional ad spend to the remarketing effort, because one click is not going to be enough attention for a 2-week sales cycle. So yes, that's why I try to usually always teach, like, what's the best structure? It's like, it depends. When you have a longer sales cycle, higher AOV, or both, you need more time and more channels to develop that education that they feel comfortable on spending that much amount of money.
Yeah, makes sense. Brain Bite. I think it's a new watcher, maybe just a long time listener, but first time caller kind of thing. Hey, John, I'm new to this. Any updates on search feeder strategy? Can I run the feeder strategy with a full built PMAX campaign alongside standard shopping, or should it just be PMAX feeder? And then the clarification here, how do you apply the feeder strategy in standard shopping when dealing with a large number of SKUs, profit margins, bestsellers, etc.?
Yep. So can you run feeder with a fully built PMAX campaign where you're talking about search and then PMAX and then shopping? I have not been able to run a search and full built PMAX ever, only because the vast amount of variation in search terms allows for a vast amount of variation in CPC, and one campaign will take the good and one campaign takes the leftover. And it's not really up to me which one gets which, because the variances are too great. Sometimes a $2 click, sometimes a $7 click, and depending upon where they're at in their buying journey. So standard shopping was always really easy because I use a feed only PLA remarketing campaign. That one's very simple. It's one channel to one channel. Or sorry, one channel to like 2 channels. But a full bill PMAX is 7 channels against search. And that will way overtake any quality that you'll be able to find inside of your standard search campaign, because the PMAX campaign has such a better way of identifying warm traffic and buyers that are closer to the buying journey. That's why they deliver a lot of returning customers. It's waiting for those people and then just snipes them. If you ever go into your insights and reports inside of Google Ads for Performance Max and look at the conversion rate of your search terms, it's like 30 and 40% all the time. Now there's only onesie twosies, but every single one's it just cherry picks and nails them. So your search campaign is kind of at the detriment of, it's kind of like the forgotten child. Like the new kid, the older kid got the car, you got the bicycle. Like, it's kind of like, that's it. Unfortunately,
they got the new suit, you got the hand-me-down. Right?
Exactly. So that's what I would say. I actually don't run a full bill PMAX ever. I can't anymore. It never scales and it's not supportive enough. So if I need to do a full bill PMAX, I'll just run Advantage Plus. Yeah. It's just way better for targeting. So, your mileage may vary, but that's what I've been able to see. How do you apply a feeder strategy to standard shopping? Segment out by categorical. So categories are the best way when you have a lot of SKUs. You don't often see categorical jumps inside of traffic. You see categorical additions, which means I came for socks. I bought socks and shoes. Very difficult to say I came for socks and I bought a purse. You kind of failed at why I went to the store that day. So that's where you see, if you can categorize your products and you build out your campaigns by category, then you can have an average AOV and LTV and CAC target of those categories, because they're probably all within about the same-ish price, different than other categories. But that is how I would absolutely set things out. Now your bids, budgets, targeting, your ROAS targets, and all this stuff is going to be based on your profit margin.
Sounds good. We have a new John
Moran.
Jahan.
It's got a logo.
Yeah, it's got maybe his name really is Jahan. I don't know. But I think he's just
Moran,
like
brother?
he either like misspelled it or whatever, like on YouTube. John Moran,
you made the logo too.
I'm impressed.
I know.
This is definitely worth answering the question. All right. What advice for small and medium-sized brands leveraging the feeder strategy and meta ads when we lack the capability for a data warehouse or third-party attribution tools?
Do in-app CPA of your add to carts compared to your main campaigns. And also look at your click-through rates compared to your main campaign. If feeder strategy working properly, you should have a cheaper cost per add to cart in your feeder than you would in your conversion campaign. And you should also have a higher click-through rate. If not, it's not working properly. So those are the 2 things that say the new users are coming in are actually more engaged and interested as people I'm trying to convert, and they're taking action. So use those 2 and make sure that those 2 are more effective and efficient in the CPA, CPC, CPM, and CTR for your feeder campaign, the campaign doing the optimizing for view content.
Okay, so be view content and then gotcha. So you're saying instead of purchase in this particular case, add to cart, and that
I'll share with you an example of this because that's why you all are here.
Yeah,
this would be kind of cool to see. So we did
here
this
for our pretty faces, John. Like
I know, right?
Ourselves,
Look at this.
Look at this. Look at this.
So what we're looking at here is if we look at the customized columns and we look at CPM, and then we do CPC, and then we do CTR. What we can look at here for an example, this is, there we go. So I have a 4% click-through rate in this one. This is actually the first week that I had a conversion campaign beat my feeder strategy CTR. Usually this is like 3 and this is 4 and 5, and then it's like 1, 2, 2, 2. This one actually did pretty good this week in 5. It wasn't always like that. If we look at, I think, like the last week. Oh, no, that one's doing really well. I think it was when we did the new creative on the 16th. Yes, it's 4, 3, then 1, 2, 5, 2. So you want to have your click-through rate be at or better than your conversion campaigns. Then your CPC is 25 cents and 13 cents compared to 60, $1, $3, $2. And obviously CPMs are lower. But what you want to look at here is if I spend $3,000,
like 7 times lower.
I know, right? Yeah, 13 cents.
Yeah.
That's my scaling. And you're getting all that good reward because Google thinks Meta thinks is just nailing like 17,000 conversions every month. Like it's just like optimizing like crazy.
Right.
So when we look at our results, we know that we're spending $3,000 and we're getting 100 added carts. So if I look above one at $12,000, I should have at least 400 added carts, right? Because that's 4 times more. So I have 100 here. I should have 400 here. I have 200.
200. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm spending 4 times as much ad spend and only getting twice as many added carts. So obviously this one is trying to convert people. So it's hounding people more often on trying to get them to buy. So they're becoming less disengaged. They're not clicking as often as they used to when they first found out about us and when we're new and exciting. Right. So that's what we have to look at is if I'm spending 50 grand, now this one is going to be a lot. There's 1,100 conversions because I'm spending 50 G's every 2 weeks. But that's kind of the thing where you look at and say, okay, this one is 2,600, 3,100. I should have about equal add to carts. This one has 36 add to carts. So you see the cost per add to cart is like 3 and 4 and 5 times higher in my conversion campaigns, which means my cheaper campaigns are bringing in people with good click-through rates, means they're interested and they're adding to cart, which means they're taking action. Yep. That's how you judge those without data suite.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like if you're going all the way through, you're just getting really optimizing for a click, but they're all going through to add to cart. Not as many purchases, obviously. I mean, you're going to get some purchases there, but I mean, it stands to reason that, that's an easier way to do it. Yep. Brian J has a question. Hi, John. The sequencing campaigns are running. Did I miss somebody here? No, I didn't. All right. Running YT feeder. Thanks. I assume that's YouTube. But what's the other half of the setup? How do you set up campaigns to target the sequence, traffic, video views, page visits?
Good OTCE question. Is my favorite campaign type. And I'll go through what that is in a moment. But first, I have to use an asterisk of if you're running other channels besides YouTube for proactive outbound marketing, such as if you're running Meta, for example, this strategy is much less effective for this particular question. What I mean by that is I would start what I call an OTCE demand gen, which is open target customer excluded. The customer excluded is kind of like, it's a band-aid, hopefully, that will help a little bit. But because Google has officially come out, at least to me, and say that the new customer only is probabilistic, not deterministic, it means that your customer exclusion is more of a hope than an ask, or it's an ask and a hope rather than a command.
Did they really tell you that? Did they talk to you about that?
I actually have the email.
Oh, I remember that email. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I thought you were being
a little spy on Google. No, that's what's in. Like he was like, that's when he's like, it's probabilistic. I'm like, haha. That's a class action lawsuit right there.
We showed that on a previous episode at great risk to ourselves and your contact.
That van is still outside getting
deep throat at Google.
Right. Whistleblower.
No, whistleblower at Google. Oh my God.
So that's what's funny is open target customer excluded, which means basically you're using just optimized targeting. I know it sounds stupid, but optimized targeting is Google's checkbox for go after warm traffic on my website. Let me decide who to go to is what Google says. Yeah. So running a demand gen with just YouTube and using the open targeting allows Meta to run warm and does your remarketing for you. So as you bring in a whole bunch of YouTube sequencing traffic on first click and education, the open targeting is going to be like, hey, anybody that came from there is semi-interested. I'm just going to go hound and try to get them to convert. So that's the other half of that feeder strategy for YouTube sequencing.
Killer. You know what I love about this show is I can interrupt you a lot and you never lose your train of thought.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else that can do that. Anyway,
cocaine.
I'm just your hype man. I'm John Moran's hype man. That's really all my role here. Big Money says we should call the show Big Money. Does make sense. All right, we're going to skip over to his question here. John Moran's dog is up next.
All right.
33 Big Money says, how do you get a 90% search impression share for an exact keyword placed in a new campaign is an only keyword? When I increase budget, it spends on other keywords. Search impression share barely moves.
Yeah, search impression share is based on eligibility, but it's also a moving target. Like the goalpost can move depending upon if there's other variations of that. So search impression share for
more competitors enter the market, or
even really. If your CPCs start to be lower. There's actually many different factors. Your search impression share for exact keyword is going to be how often is that keyword showing up in the amount of total times it could have showed up. Now, what that means for an exact keyword is you have to have an exact search term. You will never. So it's built-in goalpost moving, which means if I'm bidding on, best dog toy and my search term is best dog toy, I have 100% match rate for that search term and that keyword. And now am I getting 90% of every available search that day, which means am I spending 90 G's on that keyword? Maybe 100 G's on that keyword a day? It's possible. I've spent 200 grand a day easy on clothing keywords. So you got to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a day on that one keyword with that one match type, with that one search term, in order to hit that very, very high search impression share, which means your eligibility is, you're getting 90% of everybody. That is never going to happen because your search keyword and your search term can now have hundreds of thousands of different variations.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to now have 90% of the hundreds of thousands of variations. You're mathematically in the billions and trillions of dollars in ad spend. So just know that you're never going to hit that. And as you add in more ad spend, you are now eligible for more. So the goalpost moves.
Right.
And certain impression share is based on eligibility, not market share. Just know that is, you pay me $10, you could have got 10, which is only 10% of what you're eligible for. You pay me $20, we have more variations, and now you're eligible for 20. You're still stuck at the same percentile.
So would the recommendation here be to just increase budgets and see what happens?
Yeah, my opinion is search impression share is not anything to really pay attention to, in my opinion. Now, loss by budget, exactly. Loss by budget, loss by rank. That tells you if you're not spending enough per day or per bid. But if you're talking about search impression share, you have to negate every single other variance that you possibly can for next year to try to get it dialed in, then start to increase your spend. And you better hope that one search term that you're getting 90% of your spend to, or 100% of your spend to, is the only thing you should ever bid on. So in my opinion, it's a diagnostic, but it is not anything that I actually use. A click share is way better because that's actually what is divided by the estimate number of searches, your clicks you could have received. Search impression share is what you're eligible to receive. So one's eligibility, one's actual market share. So do click share. That would be way better.
Pretty cool. I learned something there too. Thanks. 33 big money.
Yeah.
Big money. All right. John Moran's dog. He is here. Last week, you recommended PMAX feed only shopping brand for a new B2B e-commerce industrial products B2B 10K budget, high AOV. How should the budget be split between PMAX only and shopping? There's a follow on to this. E-com client wants temporary, or is that that's a separate question, I think.
Yeah, let's do the first one, I think, and maybe we'll roll into the second one. So PMAX feed only shopping brand for new. Yep. So I remember saying that is what is starting off. That's where you should go. So the budget split between PMAX feed only and shopping, I would do it 80-20 to start. 80% of your budget to be shopping, 20% to be feed only. If you're running a brand, do 70-20-10. 70% standard shopping, 20% PMAX, and 10% brand.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
John Moran's dog.
All right. Ecom client wants to add temporary 1-month campaigns for different suppliers, each with its own budget. Would Google Ads be an effective solution or Meta Ads instead? As to add temporary 1-month campaigns for different suppliers. It depends on the goal of what you're trying to do. Standard shopping, easy. I mean, no issues there at all. YouTube, that won't work. So it depends on the campaign type. Anything that has a singular channel, search, shopping, 1 month, yes, you just have to be aggressive. High ad spend, a couple $100 a day, really low ROAS or really high TCPA targeting. Let that thing just go ham. You want a 200% ROAS, set it to 10%. It'll start with aggressive, crazy bids right at the top for best search terms immediately. The results might look like crap, but I mean, that's what it's going to take to get there for a month. So yes, you can. It's just very expensive.
What would you do with Meta Ads? What would be the recommendation there?
I'd have to know way more than a one-off campaign for suppliers. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. Okay. It depends, I guess is the question. Tony Montana is here.
Oh, yeah.
Scarface? We have Scarface as a fan of
I guess so.
It's freaking
Awesome.
awesome.
Pelican fly. Come on. Pelican.
Come on. It's like $14,000. Go by here.
All right.
Cockroach. All right.
Google us. Oh, yeah.
Say hello to my little friend. All right. Hey, John. By the way, Mike Lambert, who you met, he does the best Scarface.
Oh, does he really?
Person. Oh my God. He has me rolling like whatever you would do it. It's like crazy.
It's amazing.
All right. Anyway, hey, John, not too sure if you remember me, did the 5X on the TCPA for max conversion program. Everything was going smooth for 30 days and all of a sudden no impressions and no bids. Is that normal?
Did the 5X? Yeah, I had to copy the campaigns to get them started again, which put them in bid. Yeah, okay. I was about to say, if it just all kind of goes to crap, that happens, unfortunately, sometimes. The best way to do that, like you said, is to basically explode it and then go and make, a brand new version, just cloning it. But yes, that is, I've had to do that for some reason, like once every 2 weeks. It's just, I'm like, oh, it hasn't run in 2 days, clone it. And then after I clone it, if it doesn't start after 5 days, then I have to basically open a ticket. And sometimes Google's like, it got stuck in queue. We're sorry. So sometimes it's not necessarily a bad structure or a bad strategy. They just get stuck. But it is something that, I would say clone it. If you wait 3 days, clone it, wait 5 days, because it could be just be learning for a week. And if after 0 impressions for 5 days, then call Google. If you're like, just confirm that everything looks good.
That's right. That's right.
Also, just check out ad preview and diagnosis, though. Just run that just in case, because it could be like a negative keyword that was accidentally added at the campaign or at the account level that a year ago is stopping that thing from running. I've had weird crap like that.
Interesting. All right. John Moran, student, is back for another question. Thank you.
All
What are
right.
the top 5 ways to optimize standard shopping campaigns in Google Merchant Center to boost conversions?
Yeah. So top 5 ways of optimizing standard shopping. So first thing, use a low T ROAS. Second, use a main campaign that is going to be a catch-all. So always have, no matter what your structure and setup, Dogpile means the campaign strategy that I'd like the best for shopping is one campaign says all your products, and then you're dogpiling on top of that with individual campaigns that are also running with those same products with additional ad spend. So you're doubling down on it. That's my second thing. Third thing is look at your titles like in a 1-by-1 basis, which means if you have 1,000 SKUs, you're going to go kind of 1 by 1, unfortunately, and you can upload it in ChatGPT and they can even rewrite the headlines for you. I do that all the time. It actually is a great jumpstart. But look at what the titles are for each one of your shopping SKUs, because that is going to be your keyword for your searches inside of Google Ads. So just know that your keyword is basically your product title. If you never looked at that, it's almost like never doing keyword research on a search campaign. It's very, very important. Fourth thing I would say is making sure that all of your feed items are filled out as much as it can be. If you're reselling items, especially, make sure you have the GTIN or MPN in there, because that is the way that Google product categorizes audiences with a product. That would be one of the best things. And then in the last step, obviously, if you're doing like a feeder strategy or Dogpile, or you're doing CAPI imports, but the CAPI imports is like now a non-negotiable. We are importing, because right now, like I said at the beginning of the show, running standard shopping, which you're talking about right now. No idea the client had 70% of all their standard shopping non-brand search terms and conversions be their own customers. I would have never been able to optimize out of that without knowing that. There's no button I could press that would fix that. So that was the only thing that's going to save a company that's spending 50 G's a day. And that's a pretty powerful statement there. So that's why it's non-negotiable for me.
Yeah, pretty killer. I find that feed optimization is one of the things that so many e-commerce companies just completely discount, just don't even think of, and they
skip over it.
Yeah,
right.
The GTIN is like so important. Like you got to figure like it's like optimization. Really, you got to feed Google like the information to be able for them to be able to read what it is that your product does and what it is and the features and benefits and everything else.
I'd be very, very cautious about GTINs if you're a manufacturer, though, that potentially will look into distribution. What this means is that if you say, hey, I'm a recovering fat person, so I got a cookie next to me. So a cookie, the GTIN of this cookie is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you're the manufacturer of this cookie and you're never going to resell it, Google has no use for that GTIN. Really, you can use a GTIN, which will allow you to make major changes to this cookie. And that thumbprint of GTIN is a way that it identifies that this cookie stayed the cookie when changing the title, images, pages, descriptions, whatever. However, if I am going to resell that cookie and I use your GTIN, I now can get your traffic, because Google has audiences it knows need that product. So if I resell it, I can earn some of that traffic, because that's the only way that Google knows who wants to buy that cookie is based on the barcode. So if you're a manufacturer, don't release it. If you're a reseller, get a hold of that with your bare hands.
Yeah, sounds good. That's a good way to end the show there with a cookie.
There you go. I did good today. I got a cookie.
You get a cookie. I'll give you a cookie. We actually sent out a bunch of cookies this week, which I'll tell you about maybe this weekend. Yeah. What's that?
This is yours. I just grabbed a package.
Oh, really? We sent it to the wrong prospect. Crap.
I thought you'd love me.
Well, I'm gonna work on efficiency. I'm gonna blame Ryan for that one. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I think we answered most of the questions here. A lot of new watchers this week, John. Pretty exciting, and not as many questions, but I think pretty good information, which is what we try and do every single week here on not Tier 11 Live, on the Ad Lab.
In the ad lab. Yep.
In the ad lab here on Fridays, 2:30 p.m. Eastern every Friday. Don't miss it. Same time, same channel next week.
Yep.
Appreciate
See
you
all
John
next week.
Moran. We will talk to y'all next week. See
Sounds
ya.
good, everyone. Bye-bye.